You're listening to Errol Parker and Clancy Overall, editors of the Batuta Advocate, on Desert Rock FM.
Hello and welcome to another show. My name is Errol Parker and welcome to the Batuta Advocate radio show, recorded live from Koala Studios within the heart of Desert Rock FM here in downtown Batuta. And thank you for tuning in or downloading the show via podcast wherever you are in the world.
Hello there, I'm Clancy Overall, and thank you for joining us today for our chat with some very humorous individuals.
Yes, Clancy, they are very, very funny. We're welcoming the Grade Cricketer podcast onto the show. They're arguably the greatest thing to happen to cricket writing since Wisden, in my opinion. They're just three average blokes with sporting abilities to match. Similar to us, eh, Clancy?
Well, you can speak for yourself, Errol. If I hadn't blown my shoulder out in Colts, there was chat about me going down for a trial at Redcliffe. That is in the Q Cup, of course.
Yeah, I think you'd be the biggest thing to come out of Redcliffe since the Bee Gees, I should say.
Or Petro, yes.
Yeah, what could have been, hey? I'm sure you were destined for great things, but lucky you were a sixth-generation media man and they already had a role for you lined up as soon as your shoulder did indeed blow out. Anyway, the Grade Cricketer do a lot of stuff around the idea of what could have been and about never truly being comfortable with letting go of your dreams.
Yes, they have a highly successful podcast and a very active social media presence that seems to resonate with a lot of people from Australia to England to India, anywhere where there is grade cricket.
Well, all three of them have just poured themselves in through the door and they're sitting in front of us right now.
Here we are with three of the biggest dribblers in Australian sport, arguably. Australian sport commentary. They've never played at lofty heights required for most people to get a job in sports commentary, but they do have some good insights and they've become authorities to the point of getting a bit of international attention, and they're now an international brand. The Grade Cricketer, thanks for joining us today.
Absolute pleasure to be here. Thanks for having us.
I played second grade. Yeah, I played twos mostly.
I actually played at Lofty Heights once. To Club Field, in West Pymble.
The same joke. Yeah. Good areas early for us.
So just for our listeners in the Diamantina, could you just identify your voices for us just quickly?
This is Ian Higgins, or Higgos.
This is Dave Edwards, or Edos, or Dave, or... Yeah, that's all.
Edos.
Yeah. Edos, yeah. And this is Sam Perry, or Pez.
Now, we want to talk to you guys about this amazing podcast you've created, and this amazing brand you've created, and similar to the Batuta Advocate, you've released a couple successful books off the back of the conversations you're having about probably the lesser seen contributors to the great game of cricket. How did it start? Was it a group chat? Was it a meme page that you repurposed to monetize?
It was like I think between us there's about 30 years of like grizzled grade cricket experience, and like grade cricket is the most unforgiving environment to be playing cricket in, and so many people do it, and like there are so many adults there who are chasing dreams that died like 10 to 15 years before that, but yet they continue to do it because, like, as we say, it's all they've ever known, and they have deep-seated fear of change, and that was exactly us. And so we just decided to discuss that, and it seemed to resonate with a lot of people, just the real grim, bleak darkness of cricket.
Well, we did see a lot of that at the start of the year. I think that most of the nation was hurting after our boys were ousted as the cheaters, as opposed to the Poms or the Pakistanis or the Indians or indeed the West Indies, who are prolific tamperers of the ball, in my own learned opinion. But yeah, do you think that the reason why the nation was so hurt is because it's so ingrained in our psyche that always, it seems, that comes up from the grades?
Yes. I mean, you can't play Test cricket for Australia without having played grade cricket. I think that's one of the reasons that we are able to resonate all the way from the lowest, most ridiculously park cricketers all the way up to, the top, is because there is this system ingrained in the way that you play amateur cricket. You have to play school cricket, park cricket, grade cricket. It's unavoidable that you go through that system, and that is really where you learn how to be a man. That's the first time I learned how to be a man, was when I played against men in cricket. My dad told me nothing about how to be a man.
But that's where
You were playing with him, so it was good.
Yeah.
So do you think that's why cricket has this egalitarian kind of feel about it in the country? I mean, aside from the fact that it is the one code of winter that pretty much has everyone invested, unlike the footballing codes, do you think that pathway that includes grade cricket is why it is such a relatable sport, and it's why these big news stories that come out of cricket rock everyone, whether it is from a player passing away or a commentator passing away to a well-respected team being found as cheaters. Do you feel like that? Because you don't get that with the Wallabies. You get kids that will start playing for the Wallabies at 17 now without having to earn their stripes in the park.
Cricket's the most of the world game.
Yeah.
Cricket played across the world. Australia has the most cultural sort of background to the sport. I mean, like, for instance, you go down to the beach and you're playing cricket on the beach, in summer. Whereas in the UK, if you can find beach, which obviously you can't, but if you're on Brighton, you're on the pebbles there, they're having a game of football. And so I think everyone has played cricket, even if they haven't played cricket. So if you've had a Sunday afternoon, a glass of rosé with your missus, she might roll the arm over. In which case, you will dispatch her to all parts and score an unbeaten 153 not out. But everyone understands the fundamental aspects of a very confusing game, which doesn't have rules; it has laws. So it's it's very up itself, and it has origins in the UK, obviously. But Australia's really adopted the game as the cultural, centerpiece of world cricket. And so when it was revealed that they had, systematically organised prior to the game to cheat, it shocked us. But did it?
Yeah.
Well, in saying that, there was an elephant in the room where we had Mike Whitney up here on the show, and that elephant was the question over whether he had tampered a ball, and if Alan Border had come to him and said, "All right, Curly, I need you to make this thing turn around corners, would you do it?" And he said, the rule on every cricket pitch around the world is that captain is judge, jury, executioner, emperor. No matter how you say it, he's in charge. I know that a lot of us, except for Clancy, who's got the hand-eye of a stoned panda, we have all...
More of a Stillwater man.
We've all played God's game, and I will throw my hand up now and say I have tampered balls into next Tuesday. Have you boys ever gotten around the dark art of reverse swing?
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
We've all tampered with the ball.
Yeah.
I mean, I was a bowler. It was the only way I could get it to move. I had to tamper with the ball, and by that, you could be putting it in your freezer for a week between day 1 and 2. You could be buffering it at your job. You're a tradie. You might as well just spend the whole week shining it up on the buffing machine. There are many ways that you can tamper with the ball, but it's just part of Australian cricket, isn't it? Those dark arts.
I think it's also like a rite of passage in Australian cricket as well. I think you'd be viewed with suspicion if you didn't know how to tamper a ball.
Yeah.
So I think when the allegations kind of came to light and it all was sort of revealed, nobody in grade cricket would have been surprised at all. In fact, I think the scariest thing is that it's almost like a badge of honour.
Yeah.
So it'll be interesting to see what happens out of this culture review, because I think a lot of people, that the main problem people had with the ball tampering, and when it happened, I was in England, for example, and I texted someone who played international cricket. He wouldn't know my name at all, but I'd call him a friend. And,
Just came up as
and I said,
number.
yeah, exactly. I said, what do you think? He said, firstly, who is this? But also, he said, that is the dumbest piece of ball tampering I've ever seen in my life. And I said, does it happen all the time? He says, I think ball tampering would have happened in every single first-class game I've been involved with. So, it's more about, being good at ball tampering because it's a rite of passage.
Yeah.
I know now that you're talking about Damien Fleming.
It's funny because, Pez is completely right when he says that every single person who's ever played cricket in Australia knows how to tamper the ball, but what's funny is that no one really knows how to swing the ball in the first place. So you're tampering it, but you don't actually know what works and what doesn't. So I told the story in our podcast before, but I played with a captain who used to put the brand new ball in a freezer overnight, as Edo suggested, and it did absolutely nothing. It just made the ball harder on flatter pitches, and we chased, unsuccessfully 500 runs a lot that year, and it was very painful. But guys like pick the seam, sunscreen, lip balm, rub it on concrete. No one actually knows how to fucking swing the thing, but we're all just affecting the ball because it makes you look cool.
Most part, isn't it? It's just like, this is the next thing I do before I bowl this.
But it does make what we saw seem all the more stranger because, of course, he was caught with that small piece of sandpaper, which we asked Mike what that would achieve, and he said, Errol, it would achieve fuck all. I tend to agree with him. I just want to try and unpack kind of what happened on that field, It's out in the media now that Davey was the ringleader and poor Cam was just the Lee Harvey Oswald of the...
wrong place, wrong time.
Of the, I'll move on. But do you think the punishments were fair in the roles that each of these three players played in their own demise?
Well, first of all, they're completely disproportionate to every other punishment. I mean, that's a serious answer. But recently, the Sri Lankan guys were caught tampering, and I think their board decided to fine them for a game. Or was there a match fee?
Match fee, ICC.
So, different countries have different rules of what I think I'm saying. But for mine, I think it really split. I think because in grade cricket, everyone's done it, so it's kind of like the punishment doesn't fit the crime, but then you talk to journalists who travel around with the team and stuff, and they were just appalled by it, and it was like a representation of the Australian
It was the immediate reaction of it, the way it just happened in real time. It was captured on social. You guys know social.
For a new cycle.
You've heard of social. And it just reverberated around the world in real time, and reactions were just happening, and hot takes were given. And, I checked my phone I think it was about 6 hours after it happened, and I just felt like I'd missed the biggest story in cricket ever, and I had.
There was a massive moral panic over it, and everyone wanted to weigh in. I was in London at the time, and although we have achieved almost no notoriety in England at all, I was receiving texts from BBC producers saying, can you please come on this show so we can have an Australian to be used as a human pinata to essentially just make sure that we feel morally superior over you. Why did you guys cheat? Why do you do it? And over there, it was just the most incredible story. That garnered more attention than any sporting success they've had since I was over there. Front page for 2 weeks, and I was happy to contribute to the outrage industry.
It was great for us. We've benefited massively from it.
England have 66 World Cup, 2005 Ashes, and 2018 Cape Town. That's what they have.
But also the thing is, you've got to look at the 24-hour news cycle, and we've said it before. There's not many stories that has everyone engaged, and we saw it in how our stories flew at that time. Prior to that, you probably had Barnaby Joyce was probably he was the outrage pinata. From the citizenship scandal to the baby, everyone was invested in that, and everyone had a take on that. Even you get to those layers of intersectional politics about why this happened, and I'm sure toxic masculinity was thrown around a few times for the ball tampering, but it was an outrage machine, and the board was actually quite cowardly. I feel like kind of appeasing that, because when people get done with diet tablets and that kind of stuff, it was almost the same punishment or less, and we've seen we do feel like that might have been a bit of a blow up. And furthermore, do you feel like Errol just asked? Do you feel like the punishments fit the crime? Do you think the actual apologies fit the crime as well? That's the next thing. Steve Smith, everyone embraced. Warner, those tears, they were crocodile tears. That was the general consensus.
Well, I mean, there has to be elements and binary outcomes, and someone is the hero, someone emerges the villain, and someone's the patsy. We have to divide people into segmentations
at all.
There's no grey area in cricket, and that goes for all levels. So
did Bancroft apologise? I can't even remember.
Did he even do a presser? I don't even remember.
He did one with I think he did one with JL over there in Perth, and he was like, I'll take this, and I'll
So JL was there, you know, arm around him,
just
elder father
it's
figure.
like, you didn't do anything wrong here, mate.
He just did what
I think
Skipper
the
said.
problem is like there's just all these mixed messages when it comes to the ball tampering. So like on the one hand, there's like unprecedented sanctions against these players that aren't repeated anywhere else around the world. But then on the other hand, the same administrative body, and you know we're trying to do work with Cricket Australia, so I apologise in advance. But they're like they had a marketing campaign called Beat England, you know, beforehand. Like they actually trade off the kind of aggression and the playing at the hard edge of the game. And
Obviously, that copywriter certainly earned their keep that day. This is my vision, you know. Billboards all over the country saying "Beat England."
They're sort of like they sacked Lehman as a result of it, but then like Lehman is now into a job where he's coaching the junior sides. So it's kind of
he's on Macquarie Radio as well, you know, talking about cricket.
Yeah, I mean it's interesting, and it'll be very interesting to see how this upcoming summer goes. Maybe it was great. We say this about rugby league a lot. Maybe it was just long-winded marketing campaign.
Like Origin.
I suppose that ball tampering though really is like quite covert. It's kind of like being in the prison yard where you know you have to make do with the tools that you find. You know how you've got
little razor
where you've got you've got the South African captain using the zipper on his pants. That's pretty clever. And you've got other players in the past. You know they're hiding some cough things in their mouth. I think having a small patch of sandpaper is like trying to break out of that prison yard with a samurai sword. You know, you've got people up on the roof with guns who are out there to get you. You know, like it's very overt, but not necessarily effective.
Do you think they thought about that? Like, did they think about that there are cameras perched at the top of the stadium?
No, but
you know, there's 24-hour security.
I think that's why people were so pissed off is because they actually broke the rules of ball tampering itself.
Respect the rules.
Like prison, there should have been someone. The moment that ball was scratched, put his hand out the back, and someone walks past and picks up the paper. A bit like after someone's been knifed in prison,
in the first place.
We can't throw it in the toilet bowl. You know,
exactly.
that kind of
in
stuff.
terms of like a marketing campaign, though, I think like the redemption story that Steve Smith's going to have when he comes back is going to be like when Tiger Woods wins his 15th major. You know, he just came second to the PGA, and you look at the crowds, and no one's watching Brooks Koepka. They're all watching Tiger finish second, and like I think it's going to be the greatest moment in sports history when Tiger Woods, you know, hard done by Tiger Woods, wins his 15th, wins his 15th
narrative
major. You know, and just like Steve Smith when he scores that 100, the first Test match back in singles, and he'll just go. I mean, there's no fours, all ones.
That's all he's doing right now is just,
and his eyes will just be blazed, and he'll run down, and he'll be draped in UNICEF stickers everywhere, and he'll be charging down the wicket. You know,
but I hope he doesn't do it at the Gabba because you know that's out of anywhere where you could score 100 in this country. I think that's a bit unremarkable to score it. At the Gabba,
it'll be the right place.
Like if it was hard fought, you know, against two spinners at Sydney on the last day, you know, just reverse.
Even better, home game. You know, home SCG, friends and family. You know, the whole country, the eyes of the nation watching him score his first 100 after being, you know, sold down the river by a crooked teammate.
Yep, and then Bill Laurie dies of excitement. and that's
the end of cricket.
And that's the marketing campaign.
Hashtag Beat England.
And that's the day that Channel 9 officially died.
They just turned the lights off. It's over.
At the Gabba. Now another thing, and I'm sure we will get back to the ball tampering throughout this conversation. I want to talk about Australia's NBA. Big Bash cricket. It's exciting. It brings out the best in fans with short attention spans and players with a bit of steam, you know, for
and very short attention spans.
Arguably, I think there should have been a lot more community engagement when naming these teams. That's a two-edged sword because the Brisbane community were given the opportunity to name the Broncos.
Right.
And it was between the Brumbies and the Broncos.
Right.
before the Brumbies existed in the rugby.
Is that like an internet poll, or was that like
no, it would have been
pamphlet?
Career Mail or something in the 80s. And they chose the Broncos because they thought that was cool and American. So maybe that isn't a good idea. Maybe you guys need to be engaged.
And it's half owned by News Corp, which is an American company. So
You can do the math.
Yeah, it was sponsored by a brewing company that didn't have a beer yet. It was organised, and they essentially ran on with an Origin side. But what I'm getting at is we've thrown around the idea of some more like localised mascots for these teams. The ones that we've got have already been done. Renegades, all these vague words, heat, they've all been relayed.
They're like weather concepts.
Emotions.
Yeah.
Yeah, emotions.
the Perth sadness.
Pretty great. Pretty fun.
The Perth vengeance.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
We love to talk about new teams in this comp because it's explosive. The wickets light up. Chris goes.
LED lights mean everything.
Yeah. I'd actually like to think the border rope should light up too.
Yeah, just as long as everything is internet enabled, I'm happy. That's all that matters.
What would be some good, some other good teams, and what would be good names for them?
Well, first of all, the Sydney Sixers. I mean, I know the Sydney Sixers are a team that exists, but like Sydney's really divided by Thunder and Sixers, and Thunder is the Western Suburbs team, and Sixers is the rest. And it really just needs to be Sydney Elites and Sydney.
Scrappers.
Yeah, Scrappers. The Sydney Scrappers. Alliteration. Perfect.
Yeah,
Or the owners and renters.
The Sydney Negative Gearing.
Negative gearers.
The blonde bricks versus the red bricks. Darwin. Let's talk about it. What would they be called? The Darwin
Indifference.
I've never been there before.
They realistically should be Darwin Tropics or something.
I always get anxious when I go to new places, so maybe the Darwin anxiety. It's just using emotions.
More emotions. I like that as a theme there. Yeah.
The Darwin sweat patches.
That's right.
I just think zoo. I just think the Darwin Zoo. That's an actual place and not
It's a magazine as well. Good magazine.
That's the Hunt Grant. Put it on. Couple of land animals. What are your thoughts on the BBL in general? What as a grade cricketer, what do you think of it? Do you feel like it is perverting the game?
Well, it gives grade cricketers greater access to play professional cricket because there are more teams and, there are a lot of guys...
We're scraping the dust.
We played with a number of guys who are now on fledgling BBL contracts and wearing that kit all around town. So it does bring the grade prism a little closer to the professional
And I think like all grade cricketers, particularly if you're like a recently retired grade cricketer like we are, we like to look at the game currently and say, I could have played that or I could have played against that guy. And the more like no names there are in the BBL, like there actually are, we can just say to our girlfriends or partners or whatnot, like, I could have done that. Even though like BBL cricket is really hard to play and there's no way it would have been any good at 2020 cricket at all. But it's just kind of like, I would have excelled in this format I never had a go at.
BBL gives up the opportunity for players to look sponsored. So like when we say that, it's just like the opportunity to look like a corporation has attached themselves to you as a brand is ideal, whereas like guys who have fringe professional cricketers like the guys who are basically giving throwdowns or doing hamstring stretches to the actual players, those guys can earn like an extra $14 a game so they can buy better kit, all matching kit, so it looks like you're sponsored,
and it gives these fringe players the opportunity to get maybe 8,000 to 10,000 Twitter followers just to boost their own personal socials.
The BBL basically isn't for people who like cricket. It's for people who don't like it yet. That's why there's R&B playing when there's a 4 hit and there's fireworks go off.
Bottom cheese.
Spot on.
Well, that was the first real experiment that cricket had moving away from Channel 9 for donkey's years. And now we've seen a complete departure of cricket from Channel 9 moving on to Channel 7. What do you think the future holds? I mean, this is a brave new era for cricket. The game that we grew up with, and we always had the same faces, but we always had the same voices, and now that's all gone. I think there's going to be a generation of kids that aren't going to have that element of nostalgia. Do you think that Channel 7 is going to try to foster that or forge their own path?
I'm extremely scared that it's just going to be exactly the same. as Channel 9, as a classic Australian conservatism just rears its head once the cricket comes into play. It's just going to be Channel 7 just looking exactly cookie cutter like Channel 9.
Do you reckon
still have us on the show. Man.
You've been watching My Kitchen Rules, Punter?
Bit of integrated advertising.
We can only hope. Yeah, I mean,
we can remember when they used to make Richie plug the block. Remember that
He
was
did not like
yeah.
That just
Late Channel 9 was it was grim. And
When
it was
did you
a
know the
sadness
end
to
was
it.
coming? When Richie had to say, "Yeah, I'm looking forward to watching."
died each time. It's like, this is a limited edition. That was signed by who was it again?
Richard Chickweed.
Mr. Cricket, David Hussey. Yes.
Poor Richard.
Signed by David Hussey. He signed 399 of them. Get yours now for
169.
Jesus Christ, that's a lot of money.
I can remember him saying when was it Shannon Noel released a "How's That" single?
Still my ringtone.
Yeah, and Richie lying to us saying, "Oh, it's a lovely single. I bought it for my wife." There's great.
I don't even have a mortgage. I don't know why I'm doing this.
I mean, Dave said it before that we're all scared of change, obviously, just as Australian men and just men in general. But like, and Pez is right, I think, in that whilst they've got new ex-players, they are still ex-players who are going to tell new old stories, and so I also fear it's going to be exactly the same, but it's going to be the same with different people.
It's a fantastic chance for them to differentiate because it's not just Seven who have the rights, Fox have the rights too, so you've got two broadcasters essentially with the same content. How do they make that different?
And a lot of people who can't afford Foxtel missing half the matches.
Yes, exactly,
So if you could choose your bad boy team, commentary team, because we've seen the bad boy model works. It worked for the Miami Dolphins. It could have worked. It could have worked for the could have worked for the Canberra Raiders. If they'd kept every player over the last decade, they would have had everyone. They had Dugan, Carney, Ferguson. They let them all go. Monahan. Maybe he should have gone. But if they'd kept them all, and I think that's the new model. If you could get every unrefined ex-player to choose from, who would you have on it?
Okay, I'd kick off with some obvious ones, like I'd want Simons on. So basically I want people on who are just going to shit can the really clean, successful players. So I want Simons on, then I want Kadic on, both of whom are discussing the same player. But then I want like a really overly intellectual bent, so I'd bring on Tim May and Stuart McGill at the same time.
You'd love to see the world burn, don't you?
I've got to answer this too quickly. I've already paired them up.
Scheduling.
Highly intellectual. Any other names there?
What's Kasprowicz doing? That's just a general question, not... Bickle? No, he's too salt of the earth for a bad boy team.
Scott Muller, I think, because he was so done by Channel 9 with the whole can't bowl, can't throw scandal. I haven't even heard of him since, but I think a great way to bring him back into the fold would be just to give him the mic. What happened that day, mate? Were you stitched up by Warnie? Did you even know Warnie? What's Warnie's number? Can I have it?
Although, but that would, under the Channel 9 model, that's an offer that we can extend to overseas players. I'd like to trade out, the likes of Kevin Peterson and Freddie Flintoff. I'd like to get in, some characters with a bit more flavour. I'd like to get in actor, maybe.
He just got married. Arranged marriage. He actually did. I saw
handsome boy.
Instagram.
Handsome actor is what they called him.
Prince of Peshawar.
Cosgrove. A good one. Bit of beef. No, it is interesting to...
Ambrose. Be good.
I want the shackles released. There are certain players that are currently commentators where you just think we are not getting the best of you in any way. Mark Taylor,
Michael Holding.
Mark Taylor would have skeletons. There's skeletons everywhere. They just need the producers to release the shackles.
Or Billy Bowden. How about having him in the box?
Billy Bowden.
If you want conflict, surely you get Andrew Simons and Harbhajan Singh together. It's a two pair. It's just and just
Simon
let it go.
Kadic and Michael Clark.
Here's a session and a half and tea. Just see what comes up.
Let's delve into some, deep insecurities. See what you got to say to each other.
Yeah, exactly.
Speaking of, dramas, and you just said then we want Warnie's number, and we'd love to have Warnie on the show ourselves. He followed us briefly on Instagram and then stopped following us. At the time, cricket was...
just want to get his follow count up.
At the time, playing cricket. We want to know, discussed this earlier in the year in a podcast that was actually quite controversial with Sydney musician Joyride about warning. Okay, so bar any kind of scandalous behaviour that would affect others, which we see in the footballing codes, what could Warnie do that would bring him down? We don't know. Like we were saying, you'd need the cops to shoot him, to kill him.
Yeah.
What, Warnie would survive a bubbler.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
He would have to go mad down there in Melbourne, and the cops would have to shoot him.
He's like Trump. He would survive collusion with Russia.
Yeah.
Like, there's nothing that he can't do.
Yeah, I wonder if it's like an OJ moment. Imagine Warnie just going down,
White Bronco.
Yeah, in the white Bronco. Just heading down Fitzroy in a white Bronco.
Do it. Don't do it, Warnie.
Snail's pace. What are they?
That's a juice.
Yeah. But then there's still be blokes just going, couldn't he bowl though? Couldn't he bowl though?
History in this.
Yeah.
So he'd be going down there in the lime green Porsche. Or
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, there's not. There's,
Hand out
there
a
really
window.
is, there's nothing.
Hey, well, what hasn't he done? I mean, he's done drugs, he's done affairs, he's done what other things has he done?
Lots of texting.
New face. He's got his new face.
He's got a new face
He's got
now.
an Instagram account. That's controversial.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's
They
smoked when he had a
did-
sponsor.
The fake news tried to get into him about the foundation chats, but they shut that down. They looked into that and they were raw,
Yeah.
which Channel 9
loss.
had egg on their face.
Yeah.
And that was Ashley Madison.
And hair loss too, and he's gone through the great Australian. A rite of passage for most people in sport is to have an English girlfriend, and he's gone through that as well.
Yeah. On the hair loss thing, a lot of cricketers have gotten to hair loss products. I'm not quite sure what it is about that anxiety and insecurity of cricketers, but you got Vaughan, you've got Vaughan.
Michael Vaughan, Mark
Bollinger
Nicholas.
for a little bit.
Ricky Ponting's never admitted it, but his hairline suspiciously has come forward in years.
No, it just grew back one day,
We were saying this the other day. LeBron James, most well-paid athlete in the world, spends $3 million on his body a year, stem cells, training, saunas.
Money well spent.
Like that's in the same lane as stem cells.
Stem cells.
Saunas.
Yeah.
With a big dog.
Towels,
Yeah, towels. He has balding hair.
Yeah.
Yep.
He has tried a little bit to get a little bit of that paint powder on. And eventually given up. So it just goes to show it doesn't matter how much money you have in this world. LeBron James can't stop it.
Yeah.
I wonder why everyone thinks they can still pay someone to...
Well, I think there's a point in wealth that you get to where your hair no longer becomes an issue.
So he hasn't got there.
Yeah.
Yet. That's why he's
LeBron's-
investing in all these
Almost.
Silicon Valley startups. He's trying to hit this number that he's not at yet.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Like
no.
early-
If you have height and a great rig like he does, it's kind of the hair doesn't
two of the
become as
three.
important. But like if you don't have height nor a great rig, speaking from experience, the hair's a real problem. You know what I mean?
And also, he doesn't want to do that 90s comb over, that
Yeah.
Tupac Shakur, Michael Jordan, because he'll be compared to Michael Jordan. So he's got to keep what he's
He could
got.
colour it in though, because Carlos Boozer in the NBA used to just colour in with a texter. And I remember one game got a bit sweaty and it just went all over his face.
Do you remember
Pitfalls
early
to everything.
Cavs LeBron where the headband would just every year would go a little bit higher up his forehead?
It was tattooed on,
Wayne
actually.
Rooney's another one. He's gone bald 6 times.
Yeah.
And he's in the MLS now. I was watching him in a highlight the other day. His hair's grown back.
Yeah.
So I mean, maybe that's just hormones.
Yeah.
Darren
Or saunas.
Lockyer.
Yeah.
But we'll swerve that. We've already written about
Let
that.
that sit.
But Darren's looking good.
Yeah. Don't touch Lockyer. You know.
That's the rule.
Exactly.
I'll tell you that. What else is happening, guys? The books you sold. Is it true you sold more grade cricketer books than Clark sold autobiographies? Give us the numbers.
That's what our publisher told
We're
us.
led to believe that. Yeah. We don't have the numbers in
And
front
Smith.
of us. And
just to say that way too
and
quickly.
Smith,
Yeah.
the second book. So people wanted to hear more from us than they did Australian Test captains for some reason.
Well, their kind of stories are largely interchangeable. You know, they're both from that great cricketing heartland of southwest Sydney down there, and you know, you've got the war. You've got the War brothers. You know,
all four of them.
Yeah, from Bankstown. You've got Clarkey and you've got Steve Smith now, so I dare say that all of their autobiographies would largely be the same.
Yeah, like I started playing when I was 10 and I just didn't stop scoring runs.
They all start the
every
same.
level I went
And my old man was in the game, you know, and he
Giving me throwdowns after dusk, you know, weary, tire skew, just
like
emotionally distant throwdowns.
You can't play Pokemon until you fucking score 40 in front of squares. You little shit.
I never had to focus on any other part of my life because I knew I was going to play for Australia when I was 12. So
I'm essentially a tennis player. That's what it is. They're almost single sport athletes, the way they're brought up.
Yeah.
Then they're forced to then play in a team, which is wildly dysfunctional.
Yeah, that's one of the great things about sport. It's just like, you know, a good day for you is a great day for you. You know, it doesn't matter if you win or lose. I mean, we joke about, you know, the best thing you can do in cricket is to score 100 in a losing side because it, one, proves that you're a good player, and two, you get to have that superiority going to the dressing room just going, well, I fucking did my bit. You know?
Now, can you tell us on the punter level, how do you feel this these recent kind of scandals, I said we'd get back to this, have affected the spirit of the park, the grade cricketer?
I think if anything, it's spurred them on. You know, well, it's like it's like now I know that if I get caught tampering the ball overtly.
Yeah, well, I say this because everyone wants to talk about the fucking kids. They look up to you, banger. They look up to you. Well, my kids at home look up. They don't give a shit. Just shit. Next year they won't even remember it.
Yeah.
But it's the grade level where there's a lot of people that might have met Bancroft. And, you know.
And they're going to meet him later this summer when he's playing grade cricket. So it's going to be It's actually those worlds are going to combine. I want to be at those grounds because I think there's going to be a lot of good chat.
I hope he bats in his Australian helmet.
There you go, a missed opportunity.
That's a bit like going down to inter-regional trials under 16s rep jersey at 30
with a few beers.
Yeah, I used to be good. Yeah, I don't think it's really touched
ACLs.
I don't think it's really touched the psyche at all because I think for the most part, because grade cricketers, as you said before, is like they've all done it, and so they're kind of defending. I think that the defensive corner for Warner Smith and Bancroft has come from grade cricketers, and it's probably the outrages come from people who maybe haven't played, and those people are probably right. I don't know.
I was actually blown away by Mia Friedman's take on the whole thing.
Mia is my Bible.
Yeah, the grade cricketer lobby is it's a small but powerful lobby. I think when these guys come back and play grade cricket, they're going to be lauded, rightly or wrongly. But that's the truth of it. It'll be more like grade cricketers wanting to sidle up to them and just trying to discuss their own version of the dark arts of the game. So I think they're going to get a lot of support.
It'll kind of be like the Jamaican bobsled team walking that last 100 metres.
Exactly.
A slow clap on the ground.
Yeah.
So what is it coming up? You guys got another book in you?
I think we do content-wise, absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, we've talked about it. I mean, Pez has been living overseas for a while now, and he's just moving back in about a month or so. So logistically, it'll be a lot easier to do another book because book 2 we actually wrote, over the internet, over terrible Skype connections. But we are thinking about it, and especially with this culture review going on and the grade cricketer comedy kind of aligning with, what's going on in the professional realm. I think there is room for it.
It was easily the greatest thing to happen to our international brand, as you called it, Clancy. But the Sandpaper event, it just spiked numbers for us amazingly.
Yeah, huge engagement figures.
I'd be surprised if our third book wasn't called Culture Review.
It's all right. Yeah, the pitch is on. There was one tweet you put out the 3 days after the scandal was. You might be able to deliver it a bit better, but it was Helen from Accounts. It was top tier. Who wrote that one? And would you deliver it for us?
I think it was. Let me just read my own tattoo because I had the tweet tattooed on me. It was. Good luck explaining reverse swing to Helen from Accounts tomorrow morning. Because everyone wants an opinion, but no one actually understands what the fuck reverse swing is. So and
then we got criticism that might have been a bit discriminatory against Helen, who might actually know about cricket. The actual joke was that most people don't really know or care about cricket. That's the thing.
It'll take a while for those people to give up.
I was like, no, we're with you. That's not what we care about women.
You would have definitely definitely seen Helen, by my counts, come storming in
Yeah.
around the wicket. You know, in 1995 on a stinking hot day out there.
Out there in Lidcombe.
And the ball's not doing anything, and she's had the rough side up in her armpit. You know,
Helen from accounts
in
played out.
between the balls, and then she comes in down, just pulling the chain down with the seam just going in towards leg slip.
Yeah.
You know, this thing's moving like a banana. And, but you'd never know that unless you asked Helen.
Anyway, gentlemen, we've got to plug your podcast, obviously. So tell us, when is that released and where you can find it?
We're not quite sure yet, but it's it's a weekly. We'll start it in November,
Okay.
and it should probably come out midweek. But we're not sure yet because clearly we're sub-professional people who haven't organised our lives.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, a weekly during the summer.
Okay, so everyone can go back onto the back catalogue on Spotify, iTunes, and all your places you get your podcasts, and it's just called The Great Cricketer. And it's really, really good.
Well, boys, it's been great having you on here. I mean, you guys are the benchmark in Australian cricketing commentary and humour. I reckon Tom Gleisner's had his day, and Warwick Todd is dead. He's buried, and he's been dropped, and he's back working at Crystal Car Wash in Fountain Lakes, which was the last place I heard he was working at. He's probably moved on to another
cash
cashy
hand
from
stuff.
there,
The Hatma code is...
yeah, from cashy to cashy, like Tarzan from vine to vine. Just trying to stay off the jungle
Do you
floor.
reckon he's on the corpies? That was one thing we'll say that for the next podcast with you guys, the great world of post-grade cricket, post-professional cricket, corpies, speaking gigs, AGMs, and there's a lot of money to be made in that area. and hopefully, it's a realm you guys aren't too far off. I'm sure you can get down there to Lords or do a little something. They love having Tomo down there. I'm sure they would love having the grade cricketer now that you are the authority.
Yeah.
We did a few, and the main thing with doing speaking gigs in England is that they just want you to be like the 80s Australian, and they just want the Aussie to dance.
the
Be overly aggressive, be a bit
And Jeff Thompson did break David Lloyd's penis in half.
Yeah.
That's all they want to hear.
That's
wasn't
the
even a game of
yarn
cricket.
that they want to hear. You've just got to have one yarn that you can dine out on until you're old and grey.
Yeah.
With fucked knees.
So you did do that.
Yeah, I did one last week at North London Cricket Club. Hello, if you're listening, boys. Where they got me to MC and open it, and then Murph Hughes to do his bit. So he was the headliner, and basically I thought I was doing all this cutting edge sociological commentary that we're getting a few laughs, and then he got up and just started telling stories about how he called David Gower a prick, and they just loved it. That was just 90 minutes of Gower prick jokes, and they were just give me more dance Aussie,
And then you and Merv peeled off for dinner afterwards.
Yeah, 100%. He's I'll come back to Footscray with me, and we'll do a couple of speaking gigs together. I'm just hoping for it to be a bit of a duo. And cut these guys off. So
that's
beautiful. Well, we might get a feed together and do a few speaking gigs with you guys in the future. Thank you for joining us. Let's go have a few cans, gentlemen.
Thanks for having us.
Well, that's it. I probably never thought I'd hear myself say that there is a limit on how much shit you can talk, but it seems we might have reached it today. That was the Grade Cricketer joining us for a highly entertaining podcast, and of course they've got their own one. They're in the off season right now, but you can go look for that at the aforementioned podcast destinations that they were telling you about.
Just coming up to the top of the hour now. We've run out of time once again. Until next week, my name is Errol Parker, and stay out of the poker machines.
Yes, I'm Clancy Overall. You be kind to each other.